Kamala Harris is too much of a bot. The question I ask of you is this. Do you believe her when she says, oh, I love America?
When we think about the significance,
I love America's ambitious nation. Like, do you believe that? Do you actually believe that? No, don't say who cares. Everybody, how similar she is to Brandon. And even Brandon is like a better. Let me just explain something to you here, okay? This is a major area of weakness for Kamala Harris. She should have a really solid answer for this by now. A competent team would look at the polling that shows 65% of likely voters want something different from the current administration, the Biden administration, and only 25% of voters think Kamala Harris represents that change. If that is something that you've seen for months at this point, then you absolutely need to figure out a way to communicate to the broader public, that you are different than Joe Biden, right? So now let's hear what Kamala Harris says. Do you think that's moving? Seriously. And I'm no wrong answers here. Do you think what she just said is like a moving speech? Do you believe her when she says these things? Like, I do feel like back in the day, our politicians were significantly better orators, you know?
All forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still an issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God.
So, yeah, but this isn't a talk show interview. No, dude, you're missing the point. Kamala Harris's statements on her speeches are also identical, literally verbatim, to her talk show answers. Okay? She's repeating all of the things from her straight up DNC speech. Different venue. You guys are coping. You're coping. You're coping. I can show you a million different former politicians, former heads of state. Trump is also really bad too, by the way. Make no mistake. I'm saying that American politics has devolved in general. Like, we do not have competent, charismatic orators. Barack Obama was the last. When you listen to Barack Obama, and he doesn't even hit as hard as he used to, just think about how Barack Obama could make something that is otherwise boring and banal seem like genuinely revolutionary, right? Think about how hard Barack Obama was hitting at the DNC. The problem is we don't have that anymore. We got no motion. Kamala Harris has no fucking motion. She comes across like a bot. Joe Biden was too old to be able to deliver rousing speeches. Kamala Harris is too much of a bot. The question I ask of you is this. Do you believe her when she says, oh, I love America?
when we think about the significance,
I love America's ambitious nation. Like, do you believe that? Do you actually believe that? No, don't say who cares. Don't say who cares. Her alternative is Donald Trump, because you are going to vote for her. We're not talking about you. I'm not talking to you. Or rather, I'm talking to you, and I'm urging you to understand that not everyone is like you, right? Because you wonder, you like Kamala Harris, or you genuinely recognize the danger that Donald Trump presents for American future, right? Like, Donald Trump genuinely threatens the end of the American empire in some ways. Okay, he's a real threat to American democracy, and yet many Americans don't feel the way that you do. They don't feel the way that you do at all. So if you're considering what might be the problem, be a little bit more open-minded. If you say, oh, I understand the threat that Donald Trump presents, but you don't understand why Kamala Harris is still so close in this election to Donald Trump being a uniquely and historically unpopular Republican candidate, and yet still more popular at this stage in the polls than his 2016 race and his 2020 race. Why is this happening? If that's a question that you have for yourself, this is one of the answers. Okay, that's it. And this doesn't mean that Kamala Harris is going to lose. I still think she's going to win, but I think she's making it. The Democratic Party in general is doing their darndest, fighting their hardest to make this as close a race as possible. Okay. Older suburb POV, even if chat hates it, can tell you the older generation overwhelmingly finds her believable when she says stuff like this. They do believe her. Dog, you're in a college educated suburb. Like, we know your neighbors like Kamala Harris. They're going to vote for Kamala Harris. The polls show that your neighborhood is going to vote for Kamala Harris. The question is that going to be enough to float her across the finish line? Now, I think it may, but I also think that every time she comes out with this wishy-washy and has a I am just like Joe Biden ass speech, every time she does that, when she is objectively not Joe Biden, as in she is a black Indian woman, this puts her in a really scary situation for her electoral chances. Because while college educated suburban voters that might have historically voted for the Republican Party in your neighborhood are still interested in her in the same way that they were interested in Joe Biden, there are plenty of people who go, she's too liberal, which is a catch-all term for she's a black woman. So her trying to make up with that demographic when the intractable, unchanging qualities of her are the reasons as to why they will not vote for her is stupid. She needs to be focusing on bringing forward as many voters that are in historic Democratic Party coalitions that are no longer actively a part of the Democratic Party's base of support. She should not be running a 2020 Joe Biden or to the right of the 2020 Joe Biden campaign as a black woman. She should be running a 2008 Barack Obama campaign. And she had the opportunity to do so, but she didn't. Stop edging us, play the clip. I did. I finished it. I just went back to this part because it was just like bad. She is just American, not black, Indian, just American. Focus not on the race. It should mean nothing. What kind of nonsense is this, bro? We're doing calculations about like middle America. We're talking about swing state voters who are non-college educated. You think they don't make this argument? I don't give a shit if she's black or Indian or a woman. I don't care at all. First of all, for the way that she presents her policies, it doesn't matter. She is not advocating for things like she is a black Indian woman. She's advocating for the same exact things that like many Republicans would have advocated for maybe, 8 years ago, with the exception of abortion. Okay. But when we're talking about this sort of stuff, I'm talking about the American voters and what they see. They're wrong, but that's it. It's so funny to say race should mean nothing. It is funny when you say her race should mean nothing when like she knows that her race is a major problem in terms of the way people view her, which is why she doesn't bring it up. But in any case, I do talk more than just my personal neighbors. I door knock and call my state chat. Do that. It works. Hasan knows from experience. But I'm very focused on suburbs, Detroit area mainly. It's not one area. It's all over the suburbs. A lot of people moving into her camp. If it manifests how I think on E-Day, you will know where it came from, which sort of strat is moving people from what we have seen. We'll see. I think that her running the way that she's running towards Joseph Robinette Brandon, is making this race unnecessarily close. That's it. What? I got timed out by Fossabot, but my message was too long. How do you hear these things and just accept that nothing will change? We are not living in a time like our grandparents did, and things are evolving to a point where change could happen, but we live in a world where truth no longer matters. People who vote doesn't matter. Case in point, that video. I know we make small changes locally, but even if sometimes... What? Okay, dude, that's... I don't know how to answer that. Anyway, what will Democrats learn if Trump wins again? I assume nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing will be learned. Where has the national progressive movement gone? Labor movement is the only thing hopeful, but that's not going to do much currently. No, the Democratic Party's not going to learn any lessons. Come on, be real. No. If they would have learned anything, they would have learned a lesson from 2016, which they didn't. They just blamed the left and moved on. I would like to apologize for calling Kamala to do more media appearances. I assume that she would not say things like this, but it appears as if though I thought too highly of her. Scoop, Republicans are planning to spend heavily to promote a clip of Vice President Harris on ABC's The View saying that there's not a thing she would have done differently over the past 4 years than President Biden. I'm sorry, dude. I think suburban voters, I think the hyper focus on suburban voters right here, when there are so many people out there where like suburban voters in the Detroit area in Michigan, which is like supposed to be a deep blue state, which even then is in a weird situation electorally due to Kamala Harris's unshaking commitment to Israel. It's just like that's not going to move the needle. I know I'll get called libophonics for this, but can you stress the importance of voting in non-presidential races? In California, our ballot propositions give voters direct access to things like affordable housing, school funding, abolishing prisons, slavery, etc. It's the only thing that gives me hope in this election. Yes, no, I'm a fan of voting. I love voting. Line wives clapping back. Okay, we'll do this in a second. Some Democrats are already saying they will blame Palestinians if Trump wins. Yeah, it is such a ridiculous way to be like, well, people should have voted. Like, that's such an idiotic way to approach the subject matter. That's not how democracy works. Democracy is about extracting concessions from your elected representatives. That's like the entire purpose of democracy. Okay? What if way that like voters who aren't even a part of the party, who are simply fans of the party, are mad? Like, that blows my mind when voters themselves cuck themselves by being like, you should have just voted for this person. It's like, dude, they work for you. That's not how this works. That's just not how this works. Like, I know Trump is a threat. Good luck explaining that to people, okay? They don't give a You need to make people believe. You need to make people want to vote for you. And you can either do that by being a uniquely telegenic and charismatic individual like Barack Obama, or by doing by actively figuring out where the hurt is and then communicating a way where you will genuinely and earnestly tackle those problems. Yeah, this was the other thing that I saw. If you want to understand what is like so damning, here it is. Dave Weigel posted this. 2017 was the outlier. Dems thought Clinton lost a fluke. Comey letter. And Trump's populism rented the white working class voters. They could win back with their own populism. If Trump wins on mass deportation / Kamala's for they / them, there will be pressure to move right. Saw this in NBC. Two Democratic strategists said the issue is a loser for Harris because many voters in both parties do not want their daughters competing against transgender athletes and do not want to pay for gender-affirming surgery. In all the polls, the trans stuff is bleak, said one of the strategists, adding of one of Trump's commercials, it's an ad. You need to those people in your campaign. You need to throw them in perma jail. Okay? That is an insane thing to openly say. It is not bad at all. It's loser. The trans issue polls well, but has been historically a losing issue for the Republicans. Okay? You're an idiot. If you have these guys in your corner, if these are some of your strategists in your corner, after looking at the fallout from the 2022 primaries or 2022 midterms, that just simply means your party has been hijacked by dudes who are at odds with your base of support. Not just on trans people, by the way, but in general. Like, this shows bad instinct. This shows you objectively don't understand the situation. Most people think trans people are weird, okay? And that's it. They think trans people are weird. But if they hated trans people with the same severity that like a Matt Walsh hated trans people, then the Republican Party wouldn't have had to go back to the drawing board to figure out what other issue that Americans still believe in that they can tack on to this trans problem so they can cut propaganda and figure out that it's actually sports, which is the only area where Americans believe there is some semblance of meritocracy, fairness in sports. They could have just said trans people and everyone would like it. Most people think trans people are weird and that's it. It's not enough of an issue for them to go out and vote against the party unless they're insane. That's it. So if you can't see the way, if you cannot see the way that the electoral map is designed and the ambitions that people have and what motivates them to go out and vote, and you openly say, oh, this trans stuff, this anti-trans is like really for the Trump campaign, as a Democratic strategist, you're a loser. You're an idiot. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. You have been so hyper-focused on believing Republicans that you have once again deluded yourself alongside the rest of the Republican Party into thinking that this is a great issue. That's it. Most people think trans people are weird. Do they think about trans people enough to want to go out and vote against them? Constituency of people who care about... There's an infinitely larger constituency of people in the Republican base of support that want to do a national abortion ban, right? There's even, I would say, a larger constituency of Republican Party voters in the base of support in the Republican Party that want to ban IVF, which is directly at odds with what the Republican Party is communicating right now, than there are Republicans or any voters that are just like, I'm voting to harm trans people. Those people are schizo freaks, okay? It's not a real mover for people. It's not a real mover for people. It's not. Anyway, so this tells me a lot. I think it's very revealing. And this person, Viv, is correct. If Kamala loses, the party will move right, not because of thinking that the left can't be relied on, but rather because Democratic strategists agree with Republican policy here. If you kind of have to, I think you kind of have to, if you genuinely believe that Kamala is for they, them is a good ad. You want to see the ad, dude? Let's find the ad. I need to find this ad. Does anyone have it? Not really. No, I want to show you how this ad is. It's not a good ad. It's not a good ad, but it's also not like, it's not an ad that is a mover, okay? The ad literally has transgender operations line in it. Trump is repeating that over and over again. Do you know how the average person reads that? As though you are insane, okay?
This is the Jim Heath Channel playlist of 2024 campaign.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
That right there is the opener for this ad. You see that and you think, wow, what a banger ad. As a Democratic strategist, you should be into the sun, okay? Most people think this is like Republican ad libs. It's correct, by the way. She did do this, but it doesn't matter. Most people don't think this is real. They think, what the are you saying? Shut up, Trump. That is literally how people read this.
Prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
It's hard to believe, but it's true. Even the liberal media was shocked
so
Kamala
stupid.
supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners. And
Every transgender inmate would have access.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump.
Kamala's for they, them. Like this, they said this is an ad, bro. They said this is an ad. You have to be legitimately brain broken. You have to be legitimately like a Matt Walsh hard to look at this ad and be like, wow, that's what they're gonna do. It also doesn't even make sense within the confines of the transphobia, trans panic. It demonstrates a massive moral, it demonstrates a genuine logical flaw. Is it good to let people have trans surgeries, or are you forcibly transing them? Because if you want to punish illegal immigrants, then isn't this great for you? Isn't this great for you? You're hurting you hate. It doesn't even make sense. If you're a guy, okay, if you are a person, I thought any kind of gender confirmation surgery was bad. You're just like snipping prisoners off. If you're a guy, you look at this and you're supposed to go, oh, that's great. I love that we're, the taxpayer part, bud. Oh my God, you are an idiot if you think that is what moves the needle. Oh, I can't believe California taxpayers paid what, 10 grand total to this transgender. No, you're trying to motivate yourself to get mad about this issue when you don't give a. Okay. The problem is this does not make sense, even if you are a person. It demonstrates the same flaw in this argument that exists for every Republican policy. Is abortion? If yes, then why are there exceptions for incest and rape? You're still doing them. Are you now saying you make exceptions for? No, you just don't believe abortion is. And the same goes for, is a punishment? If yes, don't you want to punish further? Oh, it turns out you don't think it's a punishment. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. For most people, it just turns them off. They don't want to think about this. They're like, yeah, sure, trans people are weird, but like, I don't care about this. This is like too weird for me.
But it's true. Changes for prisoners and
okay, that's it. Honestly, it's about because of the gender neutral language, people are thinking, no, this is not an ad, chat. Shut the fuck up. Trump should never bring this up. He should scream for the rooftops about how the Biden economy was up and how he's going to fix it. He should say he's going to do tax cuts. What am I doing? I'm not a Republican strategist, but like, even I understand what works with the American masses, okay? I'm going to fix the economy. It's my strong suit. I'm going to fix the economy. I'm going to fix it up so good. I'm going to do the damn thing. I'm going to fix the economy. Kamala Harris can't fix the economy. She's the vice president. She didn't fix it at all. She made it bad, okay? This ad, brother, like, look, even here, it comes from Trump, lower taxes, bigger paychecks for workers. It's on the tail end after they say Kamala Harris is for the they, them. It's a terrible ad. Most people, you underestimate how much this resonates with people. Dog, they don't go out and vote for this, okay? You're just wrong. You are just wrong. You are demonstrably wrong. And I'm telling you right now, you are duper wrong. If you were right, the Republicans wouldn't have flubbed in 2022 when they had a historic opportunity. Okay? They went incredibly far right. And they went nutty mode with it. They went lean into the trans panic. They lean into crime too much. And most people were like, I don't really care, dude. This doesn't make sense. The only reason why so many of you're so California pilled, I want to dive in directly headfirst into Hurricane Milton. I am not talking about just California. I am looking at election results. That is the greatest poll that you can look at in terms of how certain messages resonated. Okay? The only reason why all of you incredibly online morons cannot see the world outside is because you are on Twitter, you are on Twitch, you are on TikTok. That's where you're getting beamed with this. People don't like to be yelled at and moralized on a regular basis. Republicans did that. They became the SJWs, okay? That's it. And that's really annoying to like normal voters. Only sports piracy enthusiasts will understand, but you know this ad is cooked when even the meth head streams chat was like, what the was that? I don't even know who you're talking about. I actually get it beamed via my construction coworkers who watch sports TikToks. Do you understand what I'm saying? Why are you mad that Trump is churning out an ad? Wait, what? I'm not. I'm mad at the chat for not understanding it's an ad because they're so Twitter brained, because they spend every waking moment straight up online. They spend every waking moment online. So they also have fallen into the Christopher Rufo trap where they straight up think like normal people care about this a lot. They don't. In order for you to hate someone that much that you want to go out and vote to cause them harm, you have to be heavily acquainted with them, and you have to at least have like an underlying resentment baked into your brain through social conditioning. You can do that for black people. You can't do that for trans people. You can just say that they're weird and move on. That's it. You can do that for black people because America's a white supremacist country. Okay? Trans people and the discourse surrounding trans people is a relatively new phenomenon. Now, it might change in the next 10 to 20 years, but for the time being, it's not a real problem that people are going to go out and vote for. That's precisely the reason why the only places where you hear about this is like, you know, cryptocurrency accounts and podcast watchers and like that are extremely online losers. It's in the fantasy world where Kamala is running on Medicare for all, minimum wage, and other economic populist policies. She is not, because she is not. This ad is going to succeed unless abortion alone carries her this entire election. No, I don't think so. I'm more mad about the fact that the Democratic Party considers this to be an ad. Eddie Germentum says this squares the circle for a lot of things. Kamala people making that Putin COVID test ad with a 12-hour turnaround has proved that they don't test this stuff beforehand because there's no way they could actually pull that before putting it out. That explains a lot of things. He's right. Also, I don't even necessarily think that's a bad ad. The Trump gave Putin COVID tests. I don't think that that's a bad ad, but it does definitely show that they don't test this stuff out before they drop it. If I asked my partner's family in rural Iowa if they cared about them trans surgeries, they would look at me like I'm an alien. Yeah, this is a bad bet for them. I'm telling you, pumping tens of millions of dollars on this ad is just a investment for the future. Okay, that's it. This is scary because it's an investment for the future. All the trans panic right now isn't really working. It doesn't have like decent electoral benefits now. But if you make the entire country become Matt Walsh style trans panic weirdos, then it will work. But you got to wait for a couple election cycles for that to kick in. I told the construction worker about this because he brought up trans people. I asked him if it affects his life at all or puts more money in his pocket, and he said no. So I asked why he cares, and he didn't have an answer. Exactly. This is weird. It's weirdo. You're weird for focusing on this. You're hyper weird for that. Okay? Nah, because it's underestimating. No, you're wrong. I'm not underestimating. I always come to the table with the recognition that at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and trans people are going to have to watch the 3-minute ad break unless they subscribe, which is inherently a thing to do. Okay? Now, You can subscribe and no longer see those ads. Here's the ad right now, by the way. People are, but they're not enough to not think insanely people are weird. It's like how the average American is racist, but still thinks mixing people are freaks. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. This is a lock, okay? I'm telling you right now. You can't get real nerdy and too invested in anything, even if it's a morally righteous cause. You will come across like a... Do you understand? I say this all the time. Americans are very, but they hate. Americans are very, but they can't stand when someone comes out and is like, they might even think that, okay? And they hate it when someone says it. There is a difference between permissible bigotry and going beyond it. If you go beyond it and people are like, I'm a little grossed out about that, okay? That's what I tell you all the time. That's the difference between undocumented migrants represent a threat to American economy and national security versus the Haitians are eating your dogs and your cats, okay? The scarier part about this is that this is all a investment for the future for the Republican Party. It's like what you always say about misogyny. Exactly. Misogyny is even better because there's so much permissible misogyny under a patriarchal structure that we exist in. Having said that, however, when someone goes, femoids are supposed to be, childbearing women barefoot and naked in the kitchen, well, then you have J.D. Vance and everybody hates him and thinks it's gross when he says stuff like that. You can't get into like nerdy levels of being weird and gross and sometimes maybe pathologically obsessed with trans people. That's it. I'm going to try to sum this up because you and Chad are lost in the sauce. The Dems are messaging based on fear of what Trump team might hit them back on instead of messaging on objectively good policies that have polls to back them up. Is loser shit? Yes. I saw this ad in a sports bar in the Center City, Philly the other night, and it didn't seem to go over well. I was surprised at first, but you're making a lot of sense. It's hard to shake a lot of people, especially in this medium, of the idea that like everyone is literally constantly thinking about new mechanisms of trans people. Okay? Because that's all you see online. Because the people that do definitely want to do that are online and they say it all the time. And there's a ton of Nazis who also are online and go, this is great. This is fire. We love this. And you get 100,000 likes. Okay. That is where this comes from. That's like, remember the Trump debate with Kamala Harris. Remember how stupid he looked. Everything that he said was a banger on Twitter. Okay. A lot of that he brought forward in that debate plays really well on Twitter leading up to that debate. But the moment that it was like, the moment that there was a little bit of light shined on it in the form of like 60 million people, okay, people were like, oh, that's weird. That's a weird thing. You're being weird. So that is something that you have to pay attention to. They definitely exist in public too, but it's like 1,000 times less common because the internet, especially X, is swarming with them. Yeah, like that Valentina Gomez woman, right? That Valentina Gomez woman got thousands of likes on Twitter for calling like gay people the F word or whatever, right? Yeah. What happened? She was running for treasurer in like, what was it? Was it Tennessee? I forget where it was. And I told you guys she was going viral on Twitter. She was going viral every day in Missouri. And I told you, if you saw in Missouri, if she walked down a crowded area in Missouri and said that exact same thing that she said on Twitter that got her like 50,000 likes, she would get smacked up by most likely a hog too. And I was right. She got like 8th place. People find that gross, dude. You don't understand it. This doesn't mean that people are like going to start hugging and kissing trans people, okay? Anytime soon. They're not going to start welcoming trans people with open arms and be super pro-trans. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that like there is a limit to your bigotry that is like appropriate and permissible, considered appropriate and permissible by the broader majority of the American population. And if you get your notes from Twitter and TikTok and whatever, one QAnon family member is all it takes in your family chat for you to think like everyone is like this, you are going to get the wrong opinions. She got 7.5% of the vote with 46,000 votes. Winner got quarter of the vote with 150,000 votes. Every time a Trump supporter runs around being like, they're cutting your children's genitals off, they come across like an intactivist, which is objectively more moral of an argument to make than being, mind you. But intactivists albeit a moral cause, come across like weirdo losers. That's it. Yeah. Chat is oversampling Facebook uncles for sure. Having worked in a warehouse, my boss said the F word and even the massively homophobic coworkers were disgusted and uncomfortable. I'm openly queer now, away from all that. Just an example. Yeah. That's it, bro. You are scaring the hoes. You are scaring the hoes when you do that. Okay? Apparently, Tropicana Field has been ripped to shreds by Hurricane Milton, even though the field is serving as a shelter for first responders, which is pretty crazy. The Rays are finally getting punishment for mediocre baseball. That's crazy, man. Chill. Anyway, I want to fight with you so much, but in the end, what is it going to get me? You know what? As a trans person, I think I speak for all trans people when I say you should play the Silent Hill remake. I think it will legitimately spook you. It will make me my pants. There are modest differences in the views on this issue across demographic groups. Women are more likely than men, 52%, to say there's a great deal or a fair amount of discrimination against trans people. College graduates are 62%, are more likely than those with less education, 55%, to say the same. If you think that the trans women in sports argument is a banger, okay, then you would have needed to strip the in sports part of that argument and watch how stupid that looks. Let me tell you how stupid that looks without it. Donald Trump was pro-trans in the 2016 election. Donald Trump criticized the state of North Carolina for pushing a bathroom bill in the 2016 election cycle. Americans don't give a... They think trans people are weird, but they also agree that people are incredibly disrespectful to trans people. That's it. Every moment that the Democrats have also dropped trans people and have not like defended them is also another losing issue for them. But it's so crazy to forget. For most people, it's confusion and ignorance, not hatred. Exactly. That's it. Oh, the crane fell. No, wait, what? I can't. That's the video, dude. I'm sure CNN would have better footage of that. I honestly worry we will be the immigration talking point for the Democrats the next election cycle. Yeah. Right now, the Dems are not talking about trans people. They will 100% talk about trans people in negative terms. It's the Starmerization of the Democratic Party. What is this? This arrangement and editorial gloss may stand for capture the journalism about the entire campaign. In interviews, Kamala Harris continues to bob and weave. In remarks about migrants, Donald Trump invoked his long-held fascination with genes and genetics. Interesting. I wonder what Donald genes and genetics. Oh, that's right. He said immigrants have bad genes that cause them to people. Well, that's a cool way to cover that, New York Times. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. In remarks about migrants, Donald Trump invoked one of his famous historical German leaders, a very important figure in German history. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good way to cover that as a headline. That's great. A crane at 400 Central just fell into the office building. Yimby St. Pete. We are a nonpartisan coalition of advocates dedicated to making housing affordable for all Pinellas County families. This is what your Yimby ass got you. Okay? How dare you? If you weren't such a goddamn Yimby, you wouldn't have a crate right there, okay? You wouldn't have a crane right there, you Yimbies. I'm kidding. Don't get mad. I'm kidding. You did this. Don't trigger the most annoying group in politics. I know Yimbies will get so mad. I mean, Florida is literally Yimby land. 11 p.m. East EST update. Milton is still a category 2 with winds of 105 miles and a minimum pressure of 960 millibars. Milton is bringing devastating winds and rains inland over parts of central Florida. Over 1 million people are without power across the Florida peninsula. Thank you, Stinky, for the update. Anyway, the stadium that collapsed is reported with a lineman or staging too. No injuries reported, but if equipment got ruined, it could delay power getting restored. I'll be honest with you. A Deborah 100 P. A Deborah 100 P put a